Janfusun Fancyworld is home to Taiwan's biggest thrill rides. This 150-acre theme park opened its doors in 1988, about a half hour away from Chiayi City and 2.5 hours away from Taipei. It's nestled in the mountains with gorgeous views on all sides. Most of your time at Janfusun Fancyworld will be spent going up and over hills, down escalators, and as a result, the roller coasters here have to interact with the terrain. This includes their signature attraction, Diving Machine G5, the second B&M dive coaster ever built, dropping riders 179 feet to the ground. Those familiar with Alton Towers will recognize this as a mirror image of Oblivion, and Janfusen is actually home to a second B&M coaster as well, this a Floorless, very similar layout to Batman the Dark Knight at Six Flags New England. You can see both of these attractions and their 289-foot-tall Ferris wheel as you're driving up to the park, and the theme park as a whole is very unconventional. In some ways, that's a good thing, keeps it unique, but it also has some very clear issues that are holding it back. In this review, I'm going to dive into everything you need to know about Janfusun Fancyworld. I'll discuss the various attractions, the standout rides, and hopefully give some tips along the way so you can make your visit the best possible. Now, like the other theme parks in Taiwan, Janfusun Fancyworld is open year-round. Typical operating hours are 9:30 to 6. Consider coming earlier as the rides do close about a half hour before the park does. Already something I do not agree with. I don't like it when theme parks do that. But it's very affordable to visit, about $38 US or 1,200 new Taiwan dollars. If you're coming from out of town, they also have an on-site resort next door, which is very convenient because this park is located a little bit away from the rest of the big cities. It's kind of a remote drive to get here. We were actually originally planning on staying on-site here, but due to less than ideal circumstances, we had to cancel. But I think it's a great idea if you want to make a full day out of it, because Janfusun Fancyworld is not just a theme park, they also have a full water park. And if you plan on doing both, I absolutely think you could spend all day here. Now, Janfusun's front gate sits partway up a hill. As soon as you scan in, you're hopping on some escalators to start your journey up. I know a lot of Taiwanese parks are built on the mountainside, but the other two that I visited prior to this, Lipao Discovery World and Lifu Village, each run flat ground. So big change of pace, but I really do like this location. The mountains on one side are stunning, and then when you get up and over the hill where the roller coasters are, you're looking down on the valley. And all along the way, these huge, tall, pretty trees. So many scenic walkways. For a while, we would be walking and you don't see any rides in sight. Just these pretty pathways, and I'm like, where is everything? We rounded a corner, and then what do we see but another entrance? Like, what? We already paid for a ticket. We already went through the turnstiles. But here it is, partway up the park, and there's a secondary ticket stand that was very much not open, and signs saying entrance here. This must have been the park's original entrance that's not being used anymore, because it was very much abandoned, and right away I was like, why is this still here? As a first-time visitor, I was immediately confused, thought I had to scan in a second time, and even though visually it was more impressive than the actual entrance, its placement made no sense. Personally, I would have removed this a long time ago. And I said this about Lipao Discovery World, that I get the vibe the park is struggling. During my visit, it was completely deserted. Granted, I did go on a weekday in October, so I imagine a lot of schools were in session, but if they were doing well, surely they'd be making regular investments into the park. They haven't added a new roller coaster since 2002. Nothing since then, and that is a shame. It was as if the theme park was locked in time. If you had visited this place 15, 20 years ago, it probably wouldn't look that different. So yeah, not a huge fan of that, but did have some positives coming up, because as we crest over the hill to now work our way downwards, we got our first look at Diving Machine G5 with its real small lift hill and then near vertical descent towards the lower end of the property. Look how high up and elevated this turn is into the brake run. It's very impressive. Remember, it's a mirror image of Oblivion, and think about the location there in Alton Towers. You only see the top third of the drop. Here's what the rest of the ride looks like. Really puts things into perspective, and I think makes you appreciate Oblivion even more. During our visit, each roller coaster we encountered was operating with one train, and every attraction in the park had just a single operator. Granted, we didn't really have to wait in any lines. In fact, when we got down to the Floorless coaster, we were quite literally the only ones there. So it wasn't a problem for us, but man, that would not be enjoyable if you went on a busy day. But the operators that we saw were at least doing their best, and we appreciate them. It was great doing a couple laps on Diving Machine. It did end up being my favorite ride of the day. And when we were done, we rounded the corner to climb aboard another escalator, this time taking us down. Very Universal Hollywood-esque. It's like you have an upper and lower lot here. And this would be the midsection because you have this bridge that gives you an amazing look at Diving Machine G5. Some of the best views in the park are from this bridge, even if there aren't any actual attractions on this level. You then have to take another escalator down to the bottom. This one much bigger. In fact, it's so big that they put a slide next to the escalator as an alternative way to go down. That's crazy. I ended up not having the opportunity to do that, but man, it looked cool. Can't say I've ever seen that before. And now you've arrived at the lower level where most of the attractions are. This includes an entire themed area to Vicky the Viking. By far the best theming in the park. It's very cute. We've seen this theme at a handful of theme parks around, including the Plopsa parks over in Europe. And I'm sorry, but the Plopsa group does it a lot better. While the area wasn't bad, it did look a little faded and clearly old. Much like Lippau Discovery World, I feel like Janfusun Fancyworld would really benefit from just a lot of paint. Give the whole place a refresh. I think it'd make a big difference. This was where we had our one and only meal in Janfusun Fancyworld. We ended up getting dinner outside the park, so this was really just to tide us over, this carbonara here. Pretty solid. We also had ulterior motives of going in this restaurant in that we visited this park when it was disgustingly humid. Being in the mountains, especially during rainy season, it is so humid. And this restaurant was air conditioned and it felt like $1,000,000. We probably looked disgusting by the end of the day because we were covered in sweat. Certainly wouldn't have minded doing a water ride here, but the only water rides in the park are actually in a separate water park. Granted, it is included with your admission, but depending on the time of year, it might not be open. It certainly wasn't for us. But considering the temperature, it absolutely could have been. A log flume or some sort of water ride for the dry park would be towards the top of my investment list. Now, this was where our experience at Janfusun Fancyworld got a little weird. As first-time visitors who did not speak the local language, we were wandering around just trying to find out how to get to the big rides, and we hadn't done the Floorless coaster yet. So we took a left from the Vicky the Viking section and we're walking up against Diving Machine G5 and we're like, wow, look at these views. And we kept going and realized we were on now a road with cars going by looking at the Floorless coaster without a perimeter fence. We had somehow wandered backstage thinking it was part of the main park. It wasn't closed off and no one certainly told us we couldn't be there. And we felt like morons. We're like, oh crap. Didn't mean to do that, but it genuinely felt like it was just part of the regular park. And I can confidently say I've never had that happen at any other theme park, even when I was in countries where I don't speak the language. Backstage areas are not easily accessible for guests, and right here, it 100% was. I really hope it's not like that on a normal day and this was just a one-time fluke, because that was mildly alarming. Now, once we got ourselves reoriented, we then continued our quest to find the Floorless coaster. Turns out, in order to get there, we had to enter this building, this restaurant, go down a set of stairs, and then that deposited us on the actual level that the ride entrance is at. I know if you were to continue around the right side past the kids area, there is another way to access the coaster, but it was just crazy that from that exact point, that was the best way to get there. We were so lost and confused, literally had to ask employees for help. We walked past the water park, which is also themed to Vicky the Viking, arrived at the Floorless coaster, whose name in English is Floorless Coaster, though in Taiwanese it about translates to insane speed. And not to be dramatic, but this was the worst B&M coaster I think I've ever experienced. It was so rough, literally throughout the entire ride, shaking aggressively. It was so easy to slam your head into the over-the-shoulder restraints, and not just in the valleys, but also partway through the loop, on the corkscrews, and those final turns. The profiling itself is fine, and the layout is solid. My gut says it has to do with the train and how the park is taking care of it. Maybe it's not getting the best maintenance it should. In the state that I rode it in, this was a big old thumbs down. Hopefully they're able to make some improvements. If you visited more recently than I have, let me know if your experience was different, because that was not great. Nearby, we encountered their massive Ferris wheel called Happy Ferris Wheel. Cute name, gave great views. That's one thing this park is absolutely not lacking in. The scenery is just fantastic. Next door is a mirror maze, a VR dinosaur attraction, and a 213-foot tall S&S combo tower. This was fun. They were only running one side for us, which again, it was a light day, so I understand. And overall, the ride experience was fine, though a little short. I believe this was operating where one side shoots you up, the other side thrusts you down. If they were only going to run one side, I wish that it was operating with both settings. And finally, that brings us to our indoor kids area, home to their Zamperla powered coaster, Cuckoo Coaster. The station for this attraction is indoors, though the layout is outdoors. A not super interesting attraction, though it does fill the gap of being that ride that's like perfect for kids, even if it does have a couple surprisingly jolty moments. The train is also adorable with this bird. This bird character, if you haven't noticed, is just all throughout the park. Tons of them in this indoor space. Also air conditioned, home to a multi-level playground, a ball pit, something called the Janfusen Museum, there were dinosaurs out front, and also a triple-decker carousel. Unfortunately for us, the land was a total dead zone, which totally killed the vibe. Most rides weren't running, there wasn't even music, and it felt abandoned, which is a weird juxtaposition when everything is colorful but there's like no energy. But overall, it was a very interesting visit to Janfusun Fancyworld. We did the main attractions we wanted with only about a half day there. The roller coasters were the reason we wanted to visit, but once we were there wasn't a ton of reason to stay. Like Lippau Discovery World, it just felt like they needed to spruce this place up, invest in some new attractions because as of right now, their lineup isn't the best. 2 thrill rides, one of which isn't any good and the other is literally a kiddie coaster. They need an intermediate coaster, but frankly, before you'd add that, I'd consider just investing and updating the park. A lot of the pathways here with this blacktop, and it's just really unpleasant to look at. It feels like a road, and that's probably why it was hard to tell what was a backstage area and what was a main pathway. And the front half of the park isn't that way at all. It actually looks pretty good. The back half, where most of the attractions are, is what was suffering. If they can beautify the back like they have the front, then I think the park will be in better shape. So for that reason, I say, if you're in Taiwan, you're looking to ride some big roller coasters, sure, come on by Janfusun Fancyworld, but don't expect it to be anything mind-blowing. Of the 3 parks I visited in Taiwan, this was probably the middle tier. It is a better park than Lippau Discovery World, but not as good as Liufu Village, and frankly, even Liufu Village needed some help. It felt like all 3 of Taiwan's big theme parks were trapped in the 90s or 2000s. But if you visited Taiwan and paid a visit to Janfusun Fancyworld, let me know down in the comments what your thoughts were. If you're new to the channel, I would love if you could check out other park reviews I've done. They're all organized in a playlist in alphabetical order by the park's name. Go check that out. Please consider subscribing for more. Thank you all so much, and I'll see you in the next one.